सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ श्री गणेशाय नमः। ॐ श्री सरस्वत्यै नमः। ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं परमानन्दमाधवम्। सर्ववेदान्तसिद्धान्त गोचरं तमगोचरं गोविन्दं परमानन्दं सद्गुरुं प्रणतोऽस्म्यहम्। We were seeing the topic of nirvikalpa samadhi, and the point that was discussed in the last session was that drishya agrahana happens both in deep sleep and in nirvikalpa samadhi. But that which happens in deep sleep is only non-perception due to tamas. Whereas in nirvikalpa samadhi, the drishya agrahana that happens is because of the abidance in the self. That is the difference. Tamonishtha causes non-perception of the world in deep sleep, whereas sadatmanishtha causes non-perception of the world in nirvikalpa samadhi. So till the time this drishya agrahana does not happen, till that time that sarvatma bhava doesn't arise. The experience of oneself being the self of all does not come about unless nirvikalpa samadhi state is achieved. Verse number 340 I am discussing. And therefore, one must put efforts in the direction of being established in nirvikalpa samadhi so that drishyagrahana happens. That's what was explained in the 341. Drishyasyagrahanam katham nu ghatate dehatmana tishtatah. For a person who is identified with the body, bahyarthanubhava prasakta manasah. For the person whose mind is prasakta, is completely attached in the experience of the world of objects, tattat kriyam kurvatah, and one who is performing the actions, the respective actions of gaining the joy from the world, for such a person, drishyasyagrahanam katham nu ghatate. How drishyagrahana will happen? Means what? Even if I am saying that I am meditating, but unless I reach the state of nirvikalpa samadhi through knowledge, this drishyagrahana is not going to happen. I may say that when I sit for meditation, I am very quiet. But have you given up the identification with the body? Have you totally detached yourself from the world of objects? Have you stopped seeking joy from the world? Unless you do this, that nirvikalpa samadhi state is not achieved. Where, for whom this state is achieved? Second line, sanyastha akila dharma karma vishayaihi, sanyastha akhila dharma karma vishayaihi, one who has totally renounced oneself from all the duties, all the actions, all the objects. Nityatmanishtha paraihi tattvajnaihi, one who has realized the tattva, realized the supreme, and nitya atmanishtha paraihi, one who is ever established in that self. Sadananda ichchubhihi, and the one who is seeking bliss of the self and not the joy from the world. For such a person, yatnataha atmani karaniyam, by putting efforts, that such a person should what? Should atmani karaniyam, should include this in mind. What? Dṛgdṛśyasya agrahanam, or nirvikalpa samadhi. So, if I am attached to the body, if I am attached to the world of objects through the body, and if I am seeking joy from the world, in that case, nirvikalpa samadhi state is not possible, drishya grahana is not possible, sarvatma bhava is not possible, atmajnana jivan mukti is not possible. But on the contrary, if I have renounced all my identifications, if I am established in the self, and if I am seeking the bliss of the self alone, then I must go for nirvikalpa samadhi. That is the point mentioned in 341. And therefore, officially, the topic of nirvikalpa samadhi begins from the next verse. So, in these two verses, he has explained why nirvikalpa samadhi is important and who should go for it. Right? Now, he gives explanation now from Shruti also. Sarvatma siddhaye vikṣoho, vikṣoho sarvatma siddhaye. Sarvatma siddhaye, for gaining the vision of the self, sarva atma siddhi. Sometimes in other, some of the pathas, it is sarvatmya siddhaye also. In some of the pathas, both are same only. Sarvatma siddhaye, sarvatmya siddhaye. Meaning is same. In order to gain that sarvatma bhava, in order to gain that vision of oneself in all, vikṣoho, for a sannyasi, for a person who has given up all other paths and is focused only on the spiritual goal, krita shravana karmanaha, one who has already performed shravana adi karma, he's already performed shravana manana nididhyasana, that is done. Avarana, what is that? Abhavana, asambhavana, viparita bhavana, all of them are gone. For such a person, samadhim vidhāti shrutihi. Samadhi is prescribed for such a person by Shruti. So, Shruti prescribes samadhi for such a person. Where does Shruti prescribe? Shanto dante iti esha shrutihi. From Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Brihadaranyaka Shruti says, tat tasmat evam vitah shanto danto paratastitikshu shraddha samavito bhutva, shraddha bhutva or samahito bhutva, atmani eva atmanam pashyet. That samahito bhutva explains samadhi. That such a person should now give up all other things and should establish oneself in that nirvikalpa samadhi. That is where we were seeing what is the meaning of nirvikalpa samadhi. No new concept. We have already seen it, but just reminding. Nirvikalpa. Vikalpa means thought. Vikalpa means option. Vikalpa means vritti, modification. Right? Nirvikalpa means without any thought modification. In savikalpa samadhi, what is happening? We are rejecting all other thoughts and focusing on a single thought. Isn't it? That is what is savikalpa samadhi. Remember? Sajatiya vritti pravaha, vijatiya vritti parikritya, sajatiya vritti pravaha. All other different kinds of thoughts about the world, I am rejecting, tiraskritya. And sajatiya vritti pravaha, single flow of thought of same kind towards that Brahman. Aham brahmasmi, aham brahmasmi, aham brahmasmi. This kind of maintaining one single thought called Brahmakara Vritti is known as Savikalpa Samadhi. Now, Nirvikalpa Samadhi means what? That state where the thought also ends. merges with the Brahman. In other words, thought also becomes vasana. It's not seen. That is what next verse says. Arudha shaktehe ahamo vinashah kartum na shakyah sahasapi panditaihi. This arudha shaktehe ahamaha, this ego which has come to power, vinashah kartum na shakyah. It is not easily destroyed. The destruction of this ego which has come in power is not that easy. Sahasapi panditaihi, panditaihi api. Even by the person who has got that tattvajnana, even such a person cannot end this aham vritti that easy. Why? Ananta bhavahi vasanaha, because the vasanas are infinite in number. They will cloud your entire understanding that you have got so far, and therefore only way is what? Ye nirvikalpakya samadhi nischalaha tanantara. Except those people who are established in nirvikalpa samadhi. Only they can destroy this ahamadi vasana, this ahankara. Why? Because in nirvikalpa samadhi, the thought aham brahmasmi has become so subtle that it has become a vasana, and it will remove the ajnana vasana. So the thought which was maintained in savikalpa samadhi merges with the goal in nirvikalpa samadhi. Is this clear? That's why we have to go for nirvikalpa samadhi. Now, you see, sometimes the moment meditation, etc., these topics are concerned, we think that meditation means quietening the mind. Sit quietly without any movement, and control your breath, and then mind also should be completely controlled. We think that is meditation. I don't know how many of you have got this experience. Many places outside, this is what is taught as meditation. When I was a school kid, I had gone for some class like this, and there they used to teach that your mind should become thoughtless. You should not think about anything, and like that you should sit for 15-20 minutes. Now what used to happen is, all other people around me used to sit, and I was like, I can't sit for 1 minute also like this. What is happening? Maybe I don't know how to do it. But I still kept on trying that, there should be no thought, there should be no thought, there should be no thought. And then after the training, etc. is over, at home also you have to continue. Throughout the training, I could not sit even once without any thought, But at least when the training is going on, after 5 minutes, 10 minutes, they will tell you that time is up. Now at home, what used to happen? Nobody is there to tell me 5 minutes are over. So all through the 5 minutes, my eyes will only be one eye open on the clock, 5 minutes over, 5 minutes not over. That is what. Never I could do this kind of meditation where we are not thinking about anything. And all other people used to tell, oh, what a state it is and what enjoy. And I used to tell that, I don't think I can do this meditation, etc. And my mother, etc. they used to feel that I don't want to do, therefore I am giving excuses that it is not happening, etc. So I used to sit for her sake, that at least she will feel that okay, 5 minutes he sat, okay, fine. And for my sake also, that I don't have to listen to all her things throughout the day, you didn't do meditation. So I used to sit, but much later when I studied Vivekachoodamani and when I come here and understood, then I realized, what are we meditating upon? There is no object of meditation, there is nothing, there is no knowledge that has happened. What are we going to meditate upon? So even today, many times, even we as Vedantins also, when we start practicing meditation, our focus is on maintaining the mind quiet, maintaining the quietude of mind. That's what we focus upon. We forget that the essential factor is after that. That's why we always say that in meditation there are two stages. When we were seeing Nididhyasana also, this topic had come. right? That there are two stages. One is the quietening of the mind, and then that quietened mind has to be put in that Brahman. So that ahaṃ brahmasmi vritti has to be brought in. But still, somehow we still focus on quietening of the mind. So here, this is a very important connection I am giving between verse number 343 and 344, because suddenly the topic begins which has no introduction as such. This is the introduction, that meditation is not just quietening of the mind. We had seen that Maya or Avidya has got two powers, Avarana Shakti and Vikṣepa Shakti. Yes, Avarana Shakti is veiling power and Vikṣepa Shakti is projecting power, projection power. Right? So what happens is, the self and its nature is veiled from my understanding. First step, non-apprehension of reality, as Gurudev would say. And then something else is shown to me as the self. Misapprehension, Vikṣepa Shakti. I don't know myself, Avarana Shakti. I think this Jiva is me, Vikṣepa Shakti. So this Vikṣepa Shakti, what we say, works inside me as various kinds of thoughts. Vikṣepa, mind also we say, is vikṣipta. Vikṣipta means what? It is disturbed. It has got a lot of agitations, it breaks into many thoughts, many modifications. That is called as Vikṣepa Shakti. Now Shankaracharya here brings one point, that if you really want to end the Vikṣepa Shakti, you have to first end the Avarana Shakti. Just by controlling Vikṣepa Shakti, it is not going to be sufficient. So you kept your mind quiet, Vikṣepa Shakti is controlled. But have you removed the Avarana? Have you removed the Ajnana Avarana? Have you destroyed that ignorance? Have you brought in that thought that I am Brahman? Have you made that thought so subtle that it has become Vasana? Till the time it is not done, Vikṣepa Shakti will not totally go away. So that is what now Shankaracharya says in the next verse. Verse number 344. Let us read. ahaṃbuddhyaiva mohinyā yojayitvāvṛterbalāt vikṣepaśaktiḥ puruṣaṃ vikṣepayati tadguṇaiḥ ahaṃbuddhyaiva mohinyā yojayitvāvṛterbalāt vikṣepaśaktiḥ puruṣaṃ vikṣepayati tadguṇaiḥ vikṣepaśaktiḥ tadguṇaiḥ vikṣepayati. First, Shankaracharya explains what is the job of Vikṣepa Shakti. Then in the next verse he says that this Vikṣepa Shakti, if you want to end, you have to first end the Avarana Shakti. Let us see. ahaṃbuddhyaiva, by this ahaṃbuddhi alone. Ahaṃbuddhi, the I thought. Mohinyā, which is deluding in nature. So what Vikṣepa Shakti does is, it creates this I thought in the Jiva. That which is not me is seen as me. That is the job of Vikṣepa Shakti. Not seeing the real me is the job of Avarana Shakti. I don't know who I am. Step number 1, Avarana Shakti. I think I am this Jiva. Step number 2, Vikṣepa Shakti. Correct? It is very natural. Earlier also we have seen that somebody asks us some question. We don't know, but we say, I don't know, but I think. And if you don't know, how can you think? That is how mind works. Even if I don't know, I posit something. So the moment there is Avarana Shakti, I don't know the self, then I immediately start to think that this Jiva is the self, this body is the self, this mind is the self. So not knowing the self is Avarana Shakti. Considering BMI, body, mind, intellect to be the self is Vikṣepa Shakti. So, mohinyā ahaṃbuddhyaiva, by this deluding superimposition, by this deluding I thought alone, avrtehe by the force of avarana shakti, by the force of veiling, vikṣepaśaktiḥ, this power of projection, misapprehension, puruṣaṃ yojayitvā, having united the person with the upadhi, tadguṇaiḥ vikṣepayati, it distracts, it torments the person through its various properties, qualities, through its nature. See the connections of words, okay? Vikṣepaśaktiḥ, first word of the second line. Vikṣepaśaktiḥ avrtehe balāt mohinyā ahaṃbuddhyaiva puruṣaṃ yojayitvā tadguṇaiḥ vikṣepayati. That is how the sentence is to be constructed. Vikṣepaśaktiḥ, the power of projection, avrtehe balāt, empowered by the veiling power, empowered by the power of veiling, mohinyā ahaṃbuddhyaiva, by the deluding misapprehension or the deluding I thought, identification, superimposition, puruṣaṃ yojayitvā, having united the person with the upadhis, tadguṇaiḥ, by its own qualities, by its own properties, vikṣepayati, it distracts the person, it torments the person. So what happens actually? First, I don't know who I am. Then I think that I am this jiva. Now the moment I think I am the jiva, I am limited. Now I want to become unlimited. Now how can I become unlimited? I think that if I get this, I will become complete. If I get that, I will become complete. Then the entire process starts of acquiring things, holding on to things, and going for more and more and more of the world. All throughout thinking what? If I get this, I will become complete. Why this feeling? Because I think I am the jiva. Why do you feel that you are the jiva? Because I don't know I am the self. See what has happened? So vikṣepaśaktiḥ does this. By its deluding identification, it torments a person. And that's what is actually samsara. Samsara is continuous tormentation. Why? Because of this factor that I go on running behind the things, thinking that if I have all those things, then I will become, complete, then I will become happy, etc. That is how it torments. So, vikṣepaśaktiḥ torments. Now, in order to destroy this vikṣepaśaktiḥ, first you have to destroy avarana shakti also. You can try to control vikṣepaśaktiḥ to attack avarana shakti. Yes, true. But unless that avarana shakti is destroyed, vikṣepaśaktiḥ will not totally go. As long as non-apprehension is not gone, misapprehension will continue to exist. That's the point that he takes up in the next verse. Let us see. Verse number 3, 4, 5. vikṣepaśaktivijayo viṣamo vidhātuṃ. niḥśeṣamāvaraṇaśaktinivṛttyabhāve. dṛgdṛśyayoḥ sphuṭapayojalavadvibhāge. naśyettadāvaraṇamātmani svabhāvāt. niḥsaṃśayena bhavati pratibandhaśūnyo. vikṣepaṇaṃ nahi tadā yadi cenmṛṣārthe. vikṣepaśaktivijayo viṣamo vidhātuṃ niḥśeṣamāvaraṇaśaktinivṛttyabhāve dṛgdṛśyayoḥ sphuṭapayojalavadvibhāge naśyettadāvaraṇamātmani ca svabhāvāt niḥsaṃśayena bhavati pratibandhaśūnyo vikṣepaṇaṃ nahi tadā yadi cenmṛṣārthe. 3 lines are there in this shloka, okay? Not 2 lines, 3 lines are there. What it says? Vikṣepaśaktivijayo vidhātuṃ viṣamah. Vikṣepaśaktivijayo, victory over this vikṣepaśakti, this projecting power, vidhātuṃ, to achieve viṣamah, is difficult. What? It is difficult to win over this projecting power, niḥśeṣam, totally win over. A little bit you can do, but to totally conquer vikṣepaśakti is difficult. When ahaṃbuddhyaiva, in the absence of elimination of veiling power. So if the avarana shakti is not destroyed, it is difficult to totally destroy vikṣepaśakti. That is the meaning of the first line. Carefully see. Vikṣepaśaktivijayo, conquering of projecting power, power of projection. Vidhātuṃ viṣamah, is difficult to achieve. Niḥśeṣam, totally. When avarana shakti nivṛttyabhāve, if avarana shakti is not removed. So unless avarana shakti is totally removed, we cannot win over vikṣepaśakti. Now this you please understand, this is the main point. Why Shankaracharya is bringing this avarana shakti, vikṣepaśakti here? Because meditation is not just quietening of the mind. Meditation is removal of ajnana vritti. That is what is the goal. Quietening of the mind is the means. You quieten the mind little bit so that you can attack the ajnana vritti, ajnana avarana. And unless you attack that, this vikṣepaśakti is not going to be conquered. You may control your mind for some time, but since ajnana is not gone, that mind will again break into all kinds of modifications. Please understand this. Okay? So, vikṣepaśaktivijayo, niḥśeṣam, total victory over vikṣepaśakti, vidhātuṃ viṣamah, is difficult to achieve avarana shakti nivṛttyabhāve, in the absence of removal of avarana shakti. Now he gives example. What example? dṛgdṛśyayoḥ sphuṭapayojalavadvibhāge. dṛgdṛśyayoḥ vibhāge. Vibhāge, in the discrimination, in the clear distinction of dṛk, seer, and drishya, seen. Like what? Sphuṭapayojalavadvibhāge. Like the clear distinction of payas. Payas means milk, and jala means water. naśyettadāvaraṇamātmani ca svabhāvāt. When you clearly distinguish the seer from the seen, then what? Tadā āvaraṇam ātmani svabhāvāt naśyet. Then that avarana, veiling which was there on the self, it gets destroyed automatically. So the focus of nirvikalpa samadhi is not to quieten the mind. The focus of nirvikalpa samadhi is to end avarana. That is the point he is mentioning. Then what? Once the avarana is gone, that's why he has added one more line. You see why Shankaracharya is bringing now verse with 3 lines. Generally verses of 2 lines or 4 lines. Why 3rd line? Because he wants to say that once that avarana, niḥsaṃśayena bhavati pratibandhaśūnyo vikṣepaṇaṃ. Yadi chet, if vikṣepaṇaṃ, projection, cenmṛṣārthe nahi, is not in the in the mṛṣārthe, in the objects which are unreal, in the unreal objects, sense objects, tadā pratibandhaśūnyo bhavati niḥsaṃśayena vikṣepaśaktivijayo. That vikṣepaśaktivijayo has to be taken from there. That when this avarana is gone, then the vikṣepaśakti which goes is complete. Unless avarana is not gone, whatever you win over vikṣepaśakti, that my mind is very quiet, nowadays veggie, it is very good, what? In a moment I can go into meditation and my mind remains calm and quiet for 20-25 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes, 1 hour, 3 hours. Question is not that. This is good, very good. If your mind is remaining calm for 3 hours, very good. Question is avarana gone? As long as you are thinking, I am doing great in meditation, avarana is not gone. That is the purpose. So don't stop. If you are able to keep your mind quiet for such a long time, very good. First step is done. Now go for second step. What? Take that aham brahmasmi vritti, make it thin, as small as a vasana, and then let it destroy the ajnana. Till that time, don't stop. Only when avarana shakti is destroyed, then destruction of vikṣepaśakti becomes pratibandhaśūnyo, without any obstacle. So without destroying avarana shakti, vikṣepaśakti cannot be conquered. When we do clear distinction of dṛk and dṛśya, the seer and seen, then avarana shakti is destroyed, and because of that destruction of avarana shakti, destruction of vikṣepaśakti becomes obstructionless, without any obstacle. Is it understood what the verse is saying? So meditation, nirvikalpa samadhi, the purpose is what? The purpose is to end avarana. Ajnana avarana is to be destroyed. So don't just use that nirvikalpa samadhi to control the mind. That is only first step. Go for the next steps also. Now here one more interesting thing we can see is, example that Shankaracharya has taken is sphuṭapayojalavadvibhāge. Like the milk and water is separated out. Now we say there is a hamsa pakshi. Hamsa. Sometimes they call it a swan. S-W-A-N. Swan, whatever you want to say. That bird is able to only collect milk from milk and water which is together. It only picks up milk, and water remains as it is. Now that hamsaha is also in Vedanta is aham saha. Aham saha, I am that supreme. This kind of understanding will end that avarana. So just as that hamsa removes, any kind of confusion, any kind of ignorance which is there about milk and water, in the same way this aham saha, this brahmakara vritti is what will remove this avarana shakti. Right? So in nirvikalpa samadhi, vikṣepaśakti will be destroyed because avarana shakti is destroyed in nirvikalpa samadhi. And that is how it will also destroy the vikṣepaśakti. Therefore, we have to go for this avarana nasha, ajnana nasha. So Shankaracharya comes back to that topic. See, so far we have been discussing about ending vasanas, ending ahankara, ending dvaita, isn't it? That was the topic which was going on. He says, correct, all that has to be done. But don't forget the Brahmastra, don't forget the final thing, and that is attacking the ajnana. So he comes back there. Let us see how Shankaracharya says. Verse number 346. Samyagvivekaḥ sphuṭabodhajanyo vibhajya dṛgdṛśyapadartha tattvam छिनत्ति माया कृतमोहबन्धं यस्माद् विमुक्तस्य पुनर्न संसृतिः। सम्यग्विवेकः स्फुटबोधजन्यः विभज्य दृग्दृश्यपदार्थतत्त्वं छिनत्ति माया कृतमोहबन्धं यस्माद् विमुक्तस्य पुनर्न संसृतिः। सम्यक् विवेकः, perfect discrimination, sphuṭabodhajanyo, which is janya, which is born from sphuṭabodha, clear knowledge, K capital. Sphuṭabodhajanyo samyak vivekah. This is not viveka which is nitya vastu viveka, which is at the beginning. Not that. This is the ultimate viveka where I say that this is the self, this is not. I am that supreme Brahman and I am not this body, mind, intellect. That kind of viveka we are talking. We are talking about a tattva viveka. If in the context of tattva bodha I have to explain. Not nitya vastu viveka, but tattva viveka. Right? Where it is born from that firm understanding that I am that Brahman, the unchanging, Satchidananda Swarupa Brahman, and I am not the body, mind, intellect, the upadhis that go on changing. This kind of viveka, sphuṭabodhajanyo, which is born from the clear knowledge, and how vibhajya dṛgdṛśyayoḥ, and it has come about by distinguishing drik and drishya padartha tattvam, the true nature of the seer and seen. You have clearly understood who is the seer who does not change and what is the seen which is finally unreal. Such viveka, born out of that knowledge, K capital, maya krita mohabandham chinatti. Chinatti maya krita mohabandham. You see, it cuts asunder maya krita mohabandham, the bondage caused by maya. Bondage of delusion caused by maya, created by maya. Yasmat vimuktasya, for a person who is liberated from that, yasmat maya krita mohabandhat vimuktasya samsritihi punahana, there is no samsara again. So what is the meaning? What you want to say? In Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the focus is on ending the avarana. How will you end the avarana? By that clear discrimination, perfect discrimination born out of pure knowledge that I am Brahman. The experience has happened now. No intellectual understanding. Not saying that Brahman is permanent, everything other than Brahman is impermanent and therefore I am going to renounce impermanent. That is low. That is the normal viveka that we start with. Viveka, vairagya, sadhana chatushtaya viveka. Not that. This viveka is the dṛgdṛśya viveka. It is the final viveka where we are saying that I am the seer and not the seen. So any kind of modification which is there is for the drishya, for the seen, is not for me, the drik. This viveka will end the bandhana, end the bondage created by maya. Bondage of what? Bondage of delusion created by maya. And once this bondage is destroyed, there is no rebirth, there is no samsara for such a person. How there is no samsara for such a person? Next verse. Verse number 347. Paravaraikatva vivekavanihi dahatya vidya gahanam yashesham kim syat puruṣaṃ saranasya bijam advaita bhavam samupeyuṣo'sya. Paravaraikatva-vivekavannih dahatya-vidya gahanam yashesham kim syat punas-samsaranasya bijam advaita-bhavam samupeyuṣo'sya. Para-avara-ekatva-vivekavannih avidya-gahanam ashesham dahati. That's the first line. Para-avara-ekatva-vivekavannih. Now, what is he saying? Vivekavannih, the fire of discrimination. Now, here Viveka can be taken as fire of knowledge, K, capital. Why? Because this Viveka is born from that sphuṭabodha only. So, it can be taken as knowledge also. So, fire of knowledge of what? Para-avara-ekatva. Now, two ways of looking at this line, okay? Para-avara-ekatva-vivekavannih, the fire of discrimination of para supreme, avara lower, which is seen to be eka, one. So, what has happened is jiva, which is the lower, and self, which is the higher, is somehow considered to be one, and the fire of viveka, discrimination of the two, that destroys the forest, is one way of looking at it. Or the second way, as we had seen, that the final understanding is not that I am not the jiva. Final understanding is I am everything including the jiva. So, para supreme, avara lower, ekatva oneness, vivekavannihi, the fire of knowledge of oneness of the entire thing. Both ways you can understand. In the first kind of interpretation, viveka means discrimination. Discriminating the self which is higher from the jiva which is lower. Body, mind, intellect which is lower. Upadhi which is lower. Or second interpretation is viveka means the knowledge of oneness. Ekatva viveka. Knowledge of oneness of Supreme Brahman, of the Supreme Self and of the entire lower world. So, para-avara ekatva vivekavannihi avidya-gahanam dahatihi ashesham. Avidya-gahanam, the forest of ignorance, dahati, it burns, indeed, he, ashesham, entirely. Means what? Either you realize that I am the self which does not change and not the body, mind, intellect that changes, or you realize that I am the self who is everything including body, mind, intellect. Not the changing part of all the objects, but the unchanging substratum of all the objects. That is what I am. I am that self which is the substratum of the entire world. That kind of knowledge burns down the ignorance. Now, advaita bhavam samupeyuṣo'sya, for such a person who has gained samupeyuṣah, for such a person who has gained what? Advaita bhavam, who has gained the non-dual nature, means what? That everything is self, there is nothing, there is no second, there is nothing other than me. The self alone is. See, why we are bringing that second interpretation is for this reason. In the first kind of interpretation, what happens? We say that I am the self and not the body, mind, intellect. So, somehow this body, mind, intellect remains second thing. But in the second interpretation, what we say? Self alone is, there is nothing other than me. That is called as Advaita Bhava. That there is nothing other than the self. So, what is body, mind, intellect? The self alone. Understood, misunderstood as body, mind, intellect. It is self alone. I hope this is clear. Understand the two steps. The first interpretation is first step. Second interpretation is next step. Earlier also we have seen this. When we look at the different ornaments made by gold, we say gold is not ornaments. Is this sentence correct or not correct? Correct only. Gold is not ornaments, but ornaments are gold alone. Understand the subtle difference between the two. When it is said gold is not ornaments, what it means is the ornaments go through changes. They have got a form, they have got a functionality which is not there for the gold. But in true sense, all ornaments are gold alone, the second step. So when I say I am the self and not the body, mind, intellect, correct, you are right. But next step says that everything is self alone. Body, mind, intellect also is self alone. Why? Because there is nothing other than body, mind, there is nothing other than the self. Then that Advaita Bhava takes place. So this Advaita Bhava, samupeyuṣo'sya, for such a person who has realized this non-dual nature, samsaranasya bijam punha kim syat. What is then bija, seed for samsara? Once this Advaita Bhava has come up, then what samsara? There is no cause for samsara. What is the cause for samsara? Avidya is the cause for samsara. That avidya is gone. Now if the seed itself is gone, how the samsara will germinate? Are you understanding? No? Little difficult? Okay, let me explain little more. See, we are mainly dealing here with Viveka, which tells me that I am that unchanging self and I am not the changing world. Why this Viveka is necessary? Because at the moment I think that I am this body, mind, intellect. So if I think I am the body, I have to first understand that I am not the body. Why? Because the body changes. When I was born, I was a small child. Now I have grown up to be this man. Body has changed. Has the self changed? No. The mind has changed. Mind is changing. Is the self changing? No. Intellect is changing continuously. Is the self changing? No. Now, I am not the changing body, mind, intellect. I am the unchanging self. This is Viveka. This is correct. This is perfectly perfect. Correct only. Okay. But then we have to go to the next step and understand that other than the self, there is nothing else. So when we say that I am the self and not body, mind, intellect, now what is that body, mind, intellect? It is the self alone. It is the self alone. Means what? Body as body is unreal. Body as self is real. Ornaments as ornaments are unreal, impermanent. Ornaments as gold are permanent. So first step is to come out of this delusion and therefore to understand that I am not this body, I am not this mind, I am not the intellect, I am the self. Different from these three, distinct from these three. But next step is to understand I am not distinct from anything. I am in and through everything. Actually, I alone am. The moment we feel that I am distinct from something, we may think that there is something other than me and I am distinct from it. No, the body, mind, intellect which I am saying that I am not that is not real. And therefore it is not that there is self, there is body, mind, intellect, I am the self, I am not the body, mind, intellect. It's not like that. It is not like that. It is the self which is at the higher level of reality and body, mind, intellect which is at the lower level of reality. Right now, I have somehow mixed these two and I am living on the lower level of reality which is called as vyavaharika satta, the transactional reality, and I continuously go up and down according to this body, mind, intellect. Remember in that BMI chart of Gurudev, I am below V, below Vasana, and therefore I am continuously changing with BMI and OET continuously changing. Why? Because I am considering myself to be PFT. It has lower level of reality. But the Upanishads are telling, the scriptures are telling me, I am not this Jiva, I am that self, that Om. This is correct. So I need to clearly distinguish between who I am actually and who I am not. Step number 1, correct, perfect, lock it. Now step number 2. Though I say that I am not the body, mind, intellect. Why? Because body, mind, intellect are not real. But that doesn't mean that there is something which I am not. Why? Because I alone am. There is nothing other than me. So even when I am contacting the ornaments, I am actually contacting the gold alone. But mistake that I am doing is I am thinking that they are ornaments different from gold. I need to just understand that the form, shape, functionality of the ornaments is not real. The gold is real. Even when I go to touch the snake, I am actually touching the rope alone. So step number 1 is understand that it is the rope and not the snake. Step number 2 is to understand rope alone is there is no snake. So step number 1, I am the self and not the BMI. Step number 2, the self alone is there is no BMI. And if at all you are seeing the BMI, it is self alone. Why? Because self alone is. Is this clear now? This is called Advaita Bhava, where you understand that self alone is. There is no Dvaita. There is nothing other than the self. Dvaita is not there. Dvaita means what? There is no duality. It is not that I am there and Maya is there or BMI is there and therefore I say that I am the self and not BMI. No. When I say I am the self and not the BMI, what it means is self alone is there is no BMI. This is called as Advaita. Advaita bhavam samupeyuṣo'sya. For such a person who has realized this Advaita bhava, this non-dual nature of one's own self, samsaranasya bijam punah kim syat. What then for such a person is the seed for samsara? Why? Because the seed for samsara is ajnana, which creates vikṣepa. Now you see we are coming. Ajnana tells me I don't know who I am. Vikṣepa says I am Jiva. At the moment I say I am Jiva, I have got samsara. But avidya, ajnana is destroyed. Then what? Vikṣepa is also destroyed. Then what? There is no seed for samsara. Why will he come back to which samsara? Where? There is no samsara for such a person. Now, right, this is the point. So, what are we saying now? We are saying that sphuṭabodha, which is called as viveka here, that clear knowledge of oneself, that there is only self, there is nothing other than the self. That knowledge, what? It destroys avarana. It destroys avarana, it destroys vikṣepa, and it destroys everything. That is what he says in the next verse. Let us see. Avaranasya nivṛttirbhavati hi samyak padartha darshanatah मिथ्याज्ञानविनाशस्तत् विक्षेपजनितदुःखनिवृत्तिः आवरणस्य निवृत्तिर्भवति हि सम्यक् पदार्थदर्शनतः मिथ्याज्ञानविनाशस्तत् vikṣepajanitadukkhanivrttiः. Different meter. What he says here, samyak padartha darshanatah avaranasya nivrittir bhavati. Samyak padartha darshanatah. Because of darshana, clear experience, samyak darshana. Of what? Of padartha, of reality. See, padartha word is very interesting. Pada means word. Pada artha, padartha, meaning of the word. Means what? The reality which is shown. That's called as padartha. Samyak padartha darshanatah, by crystal clear experience of that supreme reality. What do you mean by crystal clear experience? To understand that it alone is and there is nothing other than it and that is me. This kind of experience, this kind of direct experience, aparokshanubhuti, what it does, avaranasya nivrittir bhavati. Because of this direct experience, nivrittihi, there is end of what? Avaranasya, of avarana, of veiling. He, indeed. So, indeed, there is end of veiling power when the supreme reality is clearly experienced as one's own self. To understand that Brahman alone is and that Brahman is me means what? The self alone is. This kind of clear, crystal clear experience ends the avarana. Now here crystal clear means that which comes at the end of nirvikalpa samadhi, which is not obstructed by vasana or mana, thoughts of the mind, etc. That ends the avarana. Not only it ends the avarana, mithya jnana vinashaha. It also destroys mithya jnana. What is this mithya jnana? Delusion. What is this delusion? Misapprehension. What is misapprehension? Vikṣepa. So, avarana, ajnana, ignorance, number one. And number two, vikṣepa, moha, delusion. So, non-apprehension and misapprehension. Both these things are destroyed by the experience of, crystal clear experience of supreme reality. That's what he's saying. See, avaranasya nivrittir bhavati hi samyak padartha darshanatah. Mithya jnana vinashaha. Tat can be understood in two ways here. Tat means tatah. Thereafter, mithya jnana vinasha also happens. When once avarana is destroyed, what will vikṣepa do? Vikṣepa also will not be there. If ignorance is not there, delusion won't be there. If I realize the supreme nature of my own self, there is no ajnana, there is no vikṣepa. Or that tat can be connected with the next line. Tat vikṣepa janita dukkha nivrittihi. And then what happens? Once avarana is gone, vikṣepa is gone, then tat vikṣepa janita dukkha nivrittihi. Then the sorrow born from that vikṣepa nivritti, that also ends. Carefully note, what he is saying is, once I realize my own true nature as that supreme self which is non-dual, avarana, ignorance, veiling will be destroyed, number one. Number two, vikṣepa, mithya jnana will be destroyed. Number three, the sorrow born from that vikṣepa also will be destroyed. Now that same point he is explaining through one example. Let us see, verse number 349. Etat tritayam drishtam samyak. Unmute. You have to unmute. Etat. Rajju swarupa vijnanat. Tasmad vastu satatvam jnatavyam. bandhamuktaye vidusha. Etatritayam drashtam samyak rajjuswarupa vijnānāt tasmād vastu satatvam jñātavyam bandhamuktaye vidusha. What is he saying now? The point was, the moment the supreme nature of the self is clearly realized, avarana ends, vikṣepa ends, and sorrow also ends. Why was sorrow there? Because of vikṣepa. Why was vikṣepa there? Because of ajnana. Now the same thing he explains by the famous example of Rajju Sarpa. Step number 1, what happens is, I don't see the rope as the rope. Step number 1, avarana. Step number 2, I see the rope as the snake, vikṣepa. Step number 3, fear, sorrow arises out of that. Why? Because I am seeing the snake. Correct? Number 1, I am not seeing rope as the rope. Avarana, ajnana. Then step number 2, I am seeing the rope as the snake, vikṣepa or moha. And the moment I start seeing it as snake, then I have fear from it. Therefore, dukkha. Now Shankaracharya says, etatritayam drashtam samyak. It is seen clearly that these 3 things are destroyed. When? Rajju swarupa vijnānāt. When the real nature of Rajju, rope, is known, vijnāna. When I see the rope as rope, there is no avarana, there is no vikṣepa, there is no dukkha. Are you getting it? So, not seeing rope as rope, avarana. Seeing rope as snake, vikṣepa or moha. And because of seeing the snake, fear, etc. comes sorrow, samsara. Now, if I see rope as rope, all these 3 things are gone. There is no avarana, there is no vikṣepa, there is no dukkha. There is no samsara. Now, this is drishtanta, this is example. Now, darshtantika, what is the topic, what is the main point, what is the siddhanta? Siddhanta is, I am not seeing the self as the self, avarana. I am seeing the self as jiva, vikṣepa. Now, the moment I see the self as jiva, now jiva wants to be complete, and therefore there is samsara dukkha. Now, if I see the self as the self, there is no avarana, there is no vikṣepa, and there is no samsara dukkha. That is the point. The purpose of nirvikalpa samadhi is to end the avarana so that vikṣepa also is gone, and when avarana and vikṣepa is gone, then their effect samsara, how will it remain? It will also not be remain. It will also not remain. Tasmat, therefore, what do you mean by therefore? The topic is concluding. Tasmat vastu satatvam jñātavyam. You must realize jñātavyam, you must know vastu, the reality, satatvam, as it is. See the rope as the rope. Earlier also when you are seeing the snake, you are seeing the rope only, but you are not seeing the rope as rope, you are seeing the rope as snake. Now please see the rope as the rope. So even now when you are living in the world, what are you seeing? You are seeing the self alone, but you are not seeing self as self, you are seeing self as something else. Now please, vastu satatvam jñātavyam, please realize the supreme reality as it is. Vastu satatvam, you see the beautiful word there, satatvam, as it is. Satat, sahitatat, tvam, as it is. That's how we must realize. Vidusha, by the wise person, this should be done. Bandhamuktaye, in order to liberate oneself from bondage. Vastu satatvam jñātavyam. The reality has to be experienced as it is. Till the time the reality is experienced as it is, avarana will not be destroyed, vikṣepa will not be destroyed, dukkha will not go away. When the reality is seen as it is, avarana is gone, vikṣepa is gone, dukkha is also gone. Is it clear? Now see beautifully verse number 348 and 349. If you see, 348 is the siddhanta. There he had said samyak padartha darshanatah. Samyak padartha darshanatah avaranasya nivrittirbhavati, mithyaඥāna vināṣah bhavati, vikṣepajanita dukkha nivrittihi bhavati. That's what he has said. That when you see the reality, samyak padartha darshanatah, because of realizing the padartha, the reality, samyak clearly, what happens? Avarana gets destroyed, vikṣepa gets destroyed, dukkha gets destroyed. Now here in 349, he uses the word rajju swarupa vijñānāt. Now actually that swarupa vijñānāt is exactly padartha darshanatah. Taha in Sanskrit is used as an alternative to Panchami Vibhakti. Gramat, gramatah, vrikshat, vrikshatah. Like that, darshanatah means darshanat. That darshanat is here taken as vijñānāt. See the 348 and 349, how close they are. And padartha darshanatah, swarupa vijñānāt. It's exactly same meaning. But only difference is, there it is siddhanta. And here it is rajju, it is an example, drishtanta. But he is using the same meaning. Words are different, but in the same meaning and same vibhakti he is using, so that it is easy to connect. So, when we see the rope as the rope, avarana is gone, vikṣepa is gone, and dukkha is gone. In the same way, when we see the self as that self, avarana is gone, vikṣepa is gone, and samsara dukkha is gone. That is the point that Shankaracharya explains here. Sufficient for today. Next verse is one more example and little more tricky it is. We will see in the next class. Okay. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.